Hello everyone, this is Bentley, and today we're going to do the very first episode of a brand new series. For background, this was voted on completely by the community and was originally a suggestion from this subscriber right here. So thanks. So the poll went up. If you guys don't check out the community page, this is your ability to directly influence the channel, and more importantly, to create what effectively is my rudder and what you guys want to see and what I'll do for you as far as educational content or checkups around the tanks like we're going to do today. So this is the first episode in Tank of the Week. What does that mean? We're going to do a short video going over a different tank throughout the house each week. And as this is the very first episode, I am going to start with the one tank in the house that has no fish in it. Now, there's some story behind this. This 75 long acrylic behind me was a trade that I got from a friend. My friend Nick, who is the president of the North Sound Aquarium Society. I had a big glass 125. He had this. He needed the bigger tank. I really didn't need another glass tank. Ended up perfect for both of us. So, as you can tell, there's a ton of plants. But why is this tank without fish? Well, it's finishing the end of its cycle. This used to be where my 40 long was, for those that remember that, and this is where the wild rainbows, the Melanotaenia Rubrostriata, or the red-striped rainbow fish, are going to end up. This is their home. So, without further ado, let's take a look inside this bad boy and look exactly what's in here, from the most common plants to some really, really rare stuff. So, we're inside the tank now, and you're going to see a couple of different plants. We'll kind of sweep through it. Starting on the far left, you have a couple of different species of crypts, the big ones being Crypt Lucens and Crypt Axelrodi. So the darker brown ones that are right here, that's the Axelrodi. The brighter green ones, that's all Lucens. There's quite a lot of these two species throughout the tank. I wanted these to be the bulk of the plants. Kind of a pseudo-naturescape, but not really. As we kind of pan a little bit over, you're going to see some plants floating, and more importantly, the first of three very rare Microsorum species. So this one right here is Microsorum spoon. And it gets that name because it has a kind of spoon-shaped leaf. You notice the leaf cups inward a little bit, like the back of a spoon. As it is a Microsorum, so it's a type of Java fern. This one, very, very hard to find, not very common. So as we keep going over, you're going to see some more crypts, and you'll see in the back there's a purple night sword, or the Echinodorus Aflame. And the list for all these plants will be down in the description, just so you have a list of every plant, at least to the best of my memory, in this tank. Then we get to the next Java fern type. So this is Microsorum Tricolor. Now what's interesting about this one is when you let it grow immersed, it will get white, bright green, and then kind of a palish gray-green motley that's the third color. It's really kind of two colors that are really distinct, and a third sort of mid-tone. There's two variations of that plant. And the last Microsorum that we will see is the second variation, which is the mini version. So think of this like narrow leaf Java fern versus regular Java fern. The regular one is a much broader leaf, as we can see here. And when we get over to the mini, you'll notice much narrower leaf. Again, a lot of crypts are here. You'll notice in the very back by the Zis filter, there is some Hygrophila Polysperma sunset, or sunset hygro. This is a really common, popular plant in the hobby, but at the same time, it's a very invasive species. So if you do have this plant, make sure you're not throwing it out into water systems. It will decimate the local plant life that's there. This plant is super, super tough, can live through pretty much anything, and grows incredibly fast. I'm using it mostly as a nitrate sponge in this tank, and kind of to guard and wall off parts of the Zis filter. You'll see some more purple night swords. Some are clearly doing better than others. And if you notice, right in front of the Hygrophila are two Eriocaulon Polaris. So this is an Erio species. The most common that everybody sees is Vietnam. This is Polaris. It starts very, very small. You notice it has very spiky, almost like Pogostemon erectus leaves. But as it grows over time, it will get kind of big. So and kind of big means like maybe 2 inches to 3 inches in diameter. Not huge, but it will span out over time. Or at least that's what a friend of mine has had experience with. So we keep handing over lots more of the same crypts. Toward the back here, you're going to see Lagonandra Meboldi Green. So there's Meboldi Red and Meboldi Green are the two more common colors. You can get some of the rarer ones like pink and some other stuff. I don't have much experience with those, so I can't tell you like how true those cultivars are in their color. So here's the other Microsorum, and you'll notice it's kind of having a little trouble. It's got some new leaves that are doing fine, but it's struggling to convert the most. These were originally grown immersed by a friend of mine who's a total plant guru that tore down his immersed setup and now is working basically high-low tech. So he's low-tech plants in a lightly high-tech setup. You'll see much more of the same crypts throughout here. And then finally, another Lagonandra species. This is a variant of the longleaf, which I have to go check my notes. I can't remember exactly what it is. But it's not very common. So normally there's the longleaf Lagonandra. This is a slightly rarer version. Has a lot more color because normally it's just kind of a green. And you'll see here it's got kind of a mottled pattern or a marbly pattern like a crypt would. And the back of the leaves are kind of a brown-yellow. And then finally, as we get over here to the far end of the tank on the right-hand side, you have Alternanthera. It's like Lilacina. You'll have to forgive me. This is another one that I don't have committed to memory yet. And then there's some Crypt Spiralis in the back. Or not Spiralis. This is Balansae. Sorry. Crypt Balansae. You'll see the Balansae is growing out. Oh, and I forgot. Right over here in front of the Lagonandra is this crazy moss that is fighting off the end of some blue-green algae. It came in. It was originally immersed. It came into this tank and almost immediately, sprouted a ton of blue-green algae, and I've been fighting that off slowly but surely. Now it's starting to come back and survive. There are a few other miscellaneous plants in here, ones I've really been struggling with. So there's a Crypt Albedo Red. There's only a couple root clusters of it. It doesn't have any leaves. It's a very, very hard plant to convert, I've been told, and I'm experiencing that pretty heavily. And then there's also one or two Crypt Flamingos in here that did the same thing. When I had to tear down the 40 long, they went into a bucket for a few days while we were getting this tank set up and putting the styrofoam underneath it to balance it, because it's an acrylic tank. We wanted to be super, super safe with this tank. And in that process, they melted back because they're so finicky, and then they have yet to spring back to life, but hopefully they will do so soon. That's pretty much it for this tank. As far as the plants, there are some kind of hidden gems in here that I will talk about in the future, just because they're kind of recovering, or they're things I got from my friend that are rare and interesting, and I kind of want to do their own little spotlight. But you'll notice filtration-wise, there's a couple spare media bags on top of the two big Poré foam sponges with jet lifters in here, and then the Zis filter. I actually have the air turned down right now because this thing's really loud to do this air-driven. However, you'll also notice I'm doing CO2 in this tank, despite air driving everything. So I don't have the normal flow, but I've got a circulation pump to help me out here. So that is soon to be the new home for the Melanotaenia Rubrostriata, or the red striped rainbow fish. Well, there you go, guys. There's your dive into my 75-gallon long acrylic. So, as you can tell, it's kind of a work in progress. There's CO2 in this tank, despite also having air-powered filtration, and it's kind of a unique little creation. It's really something kind of where I'm both experimenting and creating a permanent home for the Melanotaenia Rubrostriata. Because this is a 75-gallon long, it's a 5-foot-long tank, and it's like 16 inches by, I think, 13 or something like that. I mean, it's some weird dimensions. It's really funky, but at the same time, it's really cool because it's like that. So it's this long, not very tall, not very deep tank, but it's still a lot of water. And more importantly, it'll give the rainbows lots of room to swim back and forth. And it's really just going to be them and maybe some bristlenose. If not, it'll be like some autosynclists just to help kind of keep the plants nice and clean and deal with some minor like dust algae kind of stuff. But this is going to be a really, really simple tank in the end. I just want to create a really nice environment for the Melanotaenia Rubrostriata, or the red stripe rainbows. So let me know, what's your favorite part of this tank? What are you most interested to see 3-4 months from now, right? Because this is a long-term tank. It's going to be a long-term home for these wild-caught rainbows. This is not something I'm really doing any major changes to for probably at least a year, maybe even longer. That's just the way I operate. For those who are expecting to see like a completely rescaped tank every week, that's kind of not the world of rainbow fish. Rainbows like big tanks, and in big tanks, you need to give them time. You want to get them nice and stable, good water parameters, and those all take time, and messing with a tank constantly doesn't give you that very easily. Let me know your favorite part of this tank. Down in the comments, tell me which tank do you want to see next as well. So for the next tank of the week, next week, which tank would you like to see? Maybe I'll have picked, because the first couple I'm going to shoot ahead of time. But then I'm really going to go based on what you guys want. What tank do you want to see an update for? I'll kind of give you a list in the community section. Again, I'm going to stress this a lot. I really rely on the community section for you guys to give me your input. Whether you're like, you want to see one specific thing, you're only here for like plants maybe. Well, I'm going to talk about the plants in every tank. Or you only care about rainbow fish. Or you only care about the guppies. Maybe you're the Super Shelly fan, Sean. But, regardless, let me know in the comments what you like the most, what you'd like to see next. And then watch the community tab, because that's where you're going to see the updates. If you're not a subscriber, definitely consider subscribing, just because that gives you access to the community tab, and then you get to put your vote in, you get to have your voice. There's a little over 3,100 of you now as far as subscribers are when I'm filming this, and 100 of you have determined how this series came out, whether it was once a month, once every 2 weeks, or whether it was a single tank once a week. So like the options there were determined by 100 people. So really your vote counts. And if you pay attention to the community tab, you have a lot of power there as far as what you get to see directly from what I'm creating, whether that's educational content or updates around my fish room. Rooms? House? Same thing. Anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this first episode of Tank of the Week. Look forward to next week. There's a video this Saturday as well. As always, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.